Hello and welcome to our third lesson of Unit 10. And we are going to dive right in today talking about how we can describe data using a single number. We are going to start today by you all engaging with a problem on your own before we get into instruction. And the way that's going to work is in a second, I'm going to pause the video and you will have 90 seconds to answer the question that you see on the screen. It's also in Desmos. After you answer the question, your teacher is going to be looking through your responses on Desmos and call on a few scholars to share their thinking before we come back together to stamp our key point for today. So when I say go, you'll pause the video, 90 seconds to answer this question in Desmos. Make sure you explain your thinking so your teacher can see where your mind is at. Go. I'm sure you all shared some really great ideas. Just to stamp here the exemplar for this answer, we know that 82 is right there on my dot plot. When I count the number of data points above 82, I see that there are 10 bags. Then, when I count the number of data points that are below 82, I see that there are 10 bags. I know there are a total of 20 bags of French fries because there are 20 dots on my dot plot. So I also know that 10 is half of 20. Therefore, both of these statements are true. I'm sure you guys had some really great thoughts about why both of these statements are true when you explained your thinking. So given that we know that half of the bags have more than 82 fries and half have less than 82 fries, we're going to try to figure out what 82 actually represents. So that's our next job to tackle together. What does 82 tell us about the data set? When I say go, your teacher's going to pause the video. You're going to go back into Desmos and answer this question. See if you can be really specific about what 82 tells us and even generalize this to how we can interpret data in general. Your teacher's then going to look through your responses and call on one or two scholars with really great thoughts before we come back together. Ready? Go. A lot of you probably said that 82 was somewhere in the middle of our data set. And if you said that, you were right on track. And you landed our key point for today, which is that the median is the midpoint of the data set. And it is a measure of center that summarizes a data set with a single number. By just seeing the number 82, we can see a lot about this data set and understand how many fries are in bags. There's obviously a range in this data set, but 82 is that measure of center that describes the midpoint of the data set. Really nice job coming to our key point and engaging with that. Think about it on your own. Let's look at this problem together. As we saw yesterday, Mia recorded the resting heart rates of her classmates. Here are the data set she collected, and we see the numbers there. 2 questions for us to answer today. Part A, what is the median heart rate of Mia's classmates? And part B, Mia realized that she hadn't put her own resting heart rate in the data set. If she adds her heart rate of 90 beats per minute, what is the new median? Let's tackle this one step at a time. So we saw in our think about it what the median was, and we saw that it was the midpoint of our data set. I'm going to walk us through how we find the median for part A, and then it will be your turn to find the median for part B. So let's start with step 1. Step 1 in finding the median is writing the data set in order from least to greatest. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is the step that I see 6th graders forget time and time again because we are in such a rush to find that middle point. But the middle point means nothing unless our data set is in order from least to greatest. So I know you all are not going to make that mistake today. Remember, step 1, order from least to greatest. So I'm very careful and I see my data set up top and I rewrite that data set in order from least to greatest like you see here. The next thing I do is I cross out the outer numbers one by one until I find my center number. So I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like. I cross out the farthest number on the left, then the furthest number on the right, then one in, and so on. And I keep going one by one really carefully until I get to that center number. And I see that the middle number in this data set is 84. Therefore, the median of this data set is 84. Pretty straightforward. I can check that by two separate ways. One is I can see that on either side of 84, there are 9 numbers. That tells me 84 is the midpoint. The second is just a reasonableness check. My median, if it's in the middle of my data set, has to fall within my range. My range is from 79 to 89, and 84 does fall within that range. Therefore, it's a reasonable answer. Pretty straightforward. Now, let's tackle part B together. Mia now needs to add one more data point, and that data point is 90. And now we're trying to find our new median. So I'm going to write my data set and add 90 to the data set just like you see here. Do you agree that that should be the first step I take when solving part B? When I say go, your teacher's going to pause the video. Yes, if you agree, that's the first step. No, if you disagree. Then your teacher's going to call on one scholar to share their thinking before we come back together. Ready? Go. I hope you all voted no because I said before step 1 is to put our numbers in order. 90 does not come before 79. So you may have realized that I need to write 90 at the end of my data set because it happens to be the largest number. If I was adding a different number to this data set, I would just make sure to put it in the order that it belongs, from least to greatest. Now it's your turn. When I say go, you're going to go into Desmos and find the median using the same process I did before. There's some answer choices for you to choose from in there. Then we're going to come back together to see what you found. Ready? Go. My guess is some of us had some different opinions on what the median should be here. And that's because this one was a little bit trickier. So I'm going to show you what I did. I used the exact same process that I showed you before, one by one, crossing out on either side until, there's no number in the middle. Remember, we said earlier that the median is one single number. So if you chose 84 and 85, we have to pick just one. So how do I determine what the midpoint of this data set is? If you were clever enough to realize that you had to find the midpoint of your two center points, then bravo to you. If we cross out left to right and we're left with two numbers in the middle, our job is to find the halfway point between those two numbers. In this case, halfway between 84 and 85 is 84.5. That means that the median doesn't actually need to be a number that's in the data set. It might, and it can be, but it doesn't have to be. So when we have two numbers in the center, we must find the midpoint between them to find the median. Before you get into your practice problems today, just want to do some quick practice together to make sure that we are all on the same page. So when I say go, you're going to pause this video and go back into Desmos. There are two CFU questions for you to solve. Using what we just talked about for median, find the median of each of these data sets. We're going to come back together in 60 seconds to debrief before you then have time for even more practice. Go. For that first question, remember step 1, write your data set in order. If you chose 8, you forgot the very crucial step of writing your data set in order. When you did that, you should have found that your median was 7. In the second problem, same thing, you had to write it in order. You should have realized this is just like the example that we just did, and you have 5 and 7 in the middle. So the midpoint between 5 and 7 is 6. Therefore, your median in number 2 was 6. If you got both of those CFU questions correct, go into Zoom and give yourself a virtual clapping hand so that you can show your teacher and your classmates how much you've been paying attention so far this video. Go ahead and do that now. You guys did an excellent job so far in today's video. Some quick reminders before you get into your work. Number 1, make sure you write your data set in order from least to greatest. You're probably getting sick of hearing me say that, but I promise you it is so important to remember, and I really hope that this is the day that no 6th graders forget to do that. Second is cross out from outer to inner until you find that center. If there are 2 numbers in the center, find the midpoint between those 2 numbers. It might be a decimal, it might not. And last, check your median for reasonableness. That means ask yourself, does it fall within the range of my data set? And that is it for our lesson on median together. We are going to talk about another way that we can measure data tomorrow, so I will see you back then. Good luck on your classwork today.